Hi, Tatyana. Can you welcome to the Japan CPO Association? Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Ken. Thanks for having me. My name is Tatyana Mamut. I am a global product leader. I've worked on big innovative products such as Salesforce Lightning Experience, Salesforce IoT Cloud, Amazon Web Services Honeycode. I've also helped transform existing products like Nextdoor, which is a large local social network around the United States and Western Europe. And most recently, I am at Pendo building a new to the world product as well called Pendo Adopt.
Great. So can you tell us about life before product management?
Absolutely. So my interest in product management is really about my interest in human beings and what humans want, what they desire, and where the future is taking us, and how we create the future as humans for other humans. I'm an anthropologist. I have a PhD in anthropology from the University of California, Berkeley. And through my anthropological work, what I discovered is that culture and society changes because we as humans apply technology to transform the world. And when I looked at where is technology transforming the world the most and how are we shaping culture the most, of course, it's in digital products. And, of course, there are hardware products too that are very important, that are transforming the world. But as, Mark Andreessen said, software is really eating the world. And the intelligence behind all of our technical products is really around the digital or the software experience. So after my PhD in anthropology, I was drawn to work at IDEO, which is a global innovation and design firm. And at IDEO, I ran many global teams, many global projects, things around like the future of money for Visa, the future of healthcare and cancer care for companies like Genentech, and the future of financial investment and how culture transforms for companies like Bridgewater Associates. So very big, large digital product development and experience projects. And there, one of the things that really made me have a competitive advantage in the space of digital product development is my background in anthropology, because many of the hard technical problems or many of the hard problems in technology, actually, and technology product management these days aren't really technical problems. They are really human problems. So the real problem is, how do we actually understand what human beings value, what our customers value? And then how do we build the internal teams, right? The teams of product managers, designers, engineers, marketers, and salespeople to really bring to life the product experience that our customers will really desire and value. And so at the end of the day, I really see all product management problems as human problems. How do we get the people together to build the things that other people, our customers, will value and love? And that's really my background that I bring to product leadership and especially to product innovation, right? In product innovation, it's so important to understand the mental models, the cultural frameworks, right, of our customers in order to be able to design the right solution.
Can you tell us about Pendo Adopt?
So Pendo Adopt is a tool to do this better. So Pendo Adopt, again, is built on the same back end that the Pendo Engage is. Pendo Engage is a very mature product development and product management and product analytics tool where product managers can see the product analytics right there, what features are being adopted, what features are being used, and then actually write guides and tooltips to help users when they're struggling without having to go to developers, right? It's a completely no code, guides and tooltip builder. So we use that same kind of core technology to understand that organizations need to manage their digital workplace experience for their employees. And again, this is the human part about it, right? This is the human part of product management is we first ask ourselves, is that a fundamentally different job to be done than the job to be done of Engage and product managers? And we went back to Clayton Christensen's Jobs to Be Done framework, and the book, which I highly recommend every product leader read and tell their product managers about, which is Competing Against Luck, right? Where you really understand that you build a product to accomplish a particular job that needs to get done by the customer, right? And so in the case of the digital workplace experience, the key job to be done is to really help manage the key workflows within an organization in the most, efficient, in the most efficient manner, right? So help to manage these key business critical workflows that often span across multiple applications for one workflow, right? So again, if you think about, getting a design in place in order for the product team or for the engineering team to be able to start coding, right? You're moving from, usually someplace like a Figma file. You start in Figma. Then you go to a user research platform like user testing, right? Then you put those results into, Confluence and Jira, right? So that the engineers can start coding on it, right? And so it spans, just that workflow spans multiple applications. And so you have to work across that. And so Pendo Adopt really helps teams understand what are people doing today with those business critical workflows, and how do we support them with in-app messages, with in-app guided experiences, right? And with tools to help employees really know what they're supposed to be doing at the right times.
Great. And so that sounds very complicated. And so how do your teams kind of work to make that happen?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things as a product leader, as starting something new, right? You have to think about, the product vision. You have to think about communicating the product vision. You need to think about organizing the teams. What is the team structure that's going to help us accomplish the big pieces of that product vision? And then you need to, hire the people and make sure that the teams are in place, right? And then you have to have all the processes and the tools, right, to keep them on track. So developing the product vision is primarily done through, again, what I talked about with the Jobs to Be Done framework. And I have a particular approach to big decision making. It's called a spider doc. I'm happy to share it with you or any of your listeners. And it really outlines what is the situation that we're in? What's the decision that needs to be made? Who are the people, SPIDER, right? Who are the people who are involved in making that decision? Who's the owner of the decision? Who's the final decision maker? And who's the person who's advocating for that decision to be made, and who are the people who are going to be implementing that decision, right? Primarily, right? Then with the I, what are the different ideas that we have for how we can solve this? The D is, what is the recommended decision? What's the decision? What is it, right? The E is the explanation of why we chose that decision with that idea and not another idea. And then the R is the rollout plan, right? What are the next steps, right? How are we going to roll out this decision? What is the time frame? Who are the key people that need to be involved? And so when you're defining a vision, what I find oftentimes in organizations is that people have lots of amazing ideas, but there isn't a process to decide whether to move forward with one of those ideas. And that process to both align on the vision and then get everybody aligned on, this is the decision that we're doing to move forward with this idea or not. I've developed a vision. It's a great idea. But what we've decided is to table it for another year because our strategic priorities are something else, for example, right? We just need to be really clear on what do we decide, right? Especially with these big sort of things that we're trying to move in the organization, especially around innovation. So the first is develop the vision, decide to move forward with it or not, right? But let's say you decide to move forward with it, right? Now you have to figure out how do you communicate that, right? And oftentimes what I really love is an externally facing event to announce to the world that we're doing this. You can do this with your board. You can do this with your customers at a customer conference. You can do it, at somebody else's customer conference where you're going to announce it. So I think like communicating it out to the world, right, both creates clarity inside because now you're accountable to somebody outside the world, right? It gets you the focus internally and you know exactly what you're communicating. So that's the second step. Now you have to organize the team. Like, how do you organize the team? So having great ideas is really easy for most people in product. Product people have lots of great ideas. Mm-hmm. The hard part of product leadership is figuring out the sequence of steps to get those ideas to come to life, and then getting the right people in place to execute on those sequence of steps correctly, right? That's actually the hard part about product leadership. The ideas are easy. So the next piece is, what is the organizational design? So you break down the vision and you say, okay, what's step one? What's step two? What's step three to de-risk, right, where we're going? So the first thing that we did with Adopt was I looked at it and I said, holistically, the product vision has three different aspects. The first one is to create great analytics around what does your digital workplace look like. The second one is to create great analytics around cross-application workflows, these business critical workflows that are happening in your organization. And the third is a really, really simple guide building experience. So for the guides and the tooltips that you want to build, that crosses applications as well. Okay, so we have these three big areas. Okay, so I need at least 3 teams. So I need 3 teams because we have these 3 big areas that each team is going to sequence within their product area, how they're going to go after it with my guidance. Then you look at it and you say, which is the long pole, right? Which is the long pole? The long pole is which of these 3 pieces is going to be the hardest one to implement and is going to take the longest amount of time to build. The guide builder would probably be the hardest to implement and the longest amount of time, given the infrastructure that Pendo already had in place and given the technology that I already had access to. Okay. So I started on that first. So I hired a freelance design team through Brain Trust, which is a great Web3 platform for finding talent. So I hired a freelance design team while I started staffing that team. And then started working with that freelance design team to develop and design the experience for the guide building piece of the product, along with the engineering leader, while I was hiring the team. So I staffed that team first, then we staffed another team, then we staffed another team. So figure out the long pole, start working on that first, start getting that in place first, and then move on to okay, what's the second business critical place that we need to accomplish where the product is going to be really, really hard to do. And then you staff that one and get that moving. And then you do the third one and then get that moving. Does that make sense? So you have to sequence and then you have to organize your teams around that sequence that you want to do. Now, I also have in organizing teams an approach that I think is a really great approach to having a fantastic product team. And it's my a third. So the way that I staff my product team, so I look at, so I have 9 product managers on my team. I want 3 of them to have a technical background, engineering background, or some sort of, technical background. I want 3 of them to have some sort of business background, either as an entrepreneur or, as a, consultant, or having somebody from an MBA program or something like that. And I want a third, and this is the most important third, by the way, to be social scientists, people with psychology degrees, sociology degrees, anthropology degrees. So the reason why, first of all, remember I said that the hardest problems in product are people problems. So you want to make sure you have some people experts on your team. And you really do need to have people who have true backgrounds in this, in social sciences. And here's why. Because yes, you and I, like anybody else, can pontificate on what people want or what mental models of humans are, but there is actually real disciplines and real knowledge around social science. It's just like, just because I use an iPhone every day doesn't mean that I would be an expert, iPhone app developer, right? Just because I live in a society every day doesn't mean I actually know how to pull out the real social and cultural mental models that are happening. So that third is often missed on most product teams. And that's why I think my product teams tend to be much better and much more successful than most others in the world, is because I don't miss that third. Mm-hmm. And then what I do is I structure, so these are T-shaped people, and T-shaped people means that they go deep in their area. So the folks with a technical background are deep in technology. The folks in business backgrounds are very deep in that. And the people with social science backgrounds are also very deep and very knowledgeable about that. But then the T means that they are very good at they're very curious about the other areas that they're not experts in. And they're very, very open to learning from their colleagues. And they're constantly, interested in getting their colleagues' feedback. And then as a product leader, I hire these people, and then I design the meetings where they really get input from the other folks, right? So if you're a technologist, I design my product meetings so that you're constantly getting input and input from the social scientists and the business people. If you're a social scientist PM, I design my meetings so you're constantly getting input from the technology and the business people, right? And that's how I structure my teams and get them moving in a great direction, but also not missing the things that they are not experts in.
Great. So kind of to extend on that, can you tell us a little bit about how, about sort of development of product managers? Because I think what you just touched on is very interesting for kind of continuous learning. And I think that's always something that's common among product managers.
Absolutely. I think it's so critically important for product managers to be learning and developing actually on at least two major parameters. The first one is professional development. I think this is what you are primarily asking about. Like, how do you get the professional development as a product manager, especially if you're not at a big company like a Google or a Salesforce or an Amazon? All of these companies have real kind of product management training tracks, right? At Amazon, we had an actual product con every year where the product managers across Amazon would get together for, I think, a whole week to really develop themselves. And the training for product management leaders, even at the executive level, was like amazing at Amazon. And at some point, I'll use a lot of the things I learned in that training and develop my own sort of curriculum around it. So it's really important to get those skills, those tools as a product leader. If you don't have them in your company, there are lots of great organizations. Mind the Product is a great place, right? Internationally and globally, has great curriculum, right? Product School has a great curriculum. Reforge has a great community and a great curriculum. There's obviously great just conferences, right? That product leaders should be going to. I encourage my product leaders product managers to go at least one or two product manager focused conferences every year, because learning what other companies are doing in product management is so important. The thing about being a product manager in a technology company is that you're expected to do so much and you're expected to take on so much, but you're always outnumbered by the engineers. And so it can be like 10-1 or 20-1, even in a lot of companies, right? Where the R&D group is like, there's just so much weight, right? That is about engineering process. And there's so just little weight, right, on product process, just because there aren't that many of us in an R&D organization. And so it's really important to be in an environment at least a couple of times a year where you're surrounded by other product people and you can have those conversations about product development, product process, right? And how other people are doing the same things that you're struggling with, right? And get that inspiration. So I do think that's really important. The other aspect that's really important to develop is personal development. At the end of the day, we as product leaders, we are creating the future. And one of the things that I've seen a lot of, especially lately, is a lot of product people really burning out. And the reason I think they're burning out is because they don't know how the things that they are building and how the things that they are doing actually aligns with their values as a human being. And I think it's really, really important for every product leader to find the people that they admire. If they can't, ideally, you'll find another product leader in your organization that you admire and that you can talk to openly and develop yourself as a human being in terms of saying like, hey, I'm really struggling with some of the things that I'm doing day to day because I'm working so hard. But my values, at the end of the day, I don't feel like I can fit my values into the product experiences that I'm building. Ideally, you can have that conversation with a product leader in your company that you admire, that you see maybe managing this in a way that you would like to learn how to do. If you can't find it internally, who is a person externally, right? Who maybe was a product leader and is now a coach or who can be a mentor for you, right? And I think it's really important because we are taking on so many decisions about what we're going to build. We're not just order takers in terms of what's going to happen and we can just take pride in coding it well or doing something well. We are actually taking on the burden in many cases of shaping the future. We have to feel good about our work. We have to feel good about ourselves in the decisions that we're making. We have to stand in front of the engineering teams and tell them authentically, yes, this is the right thing to do for our company and for our customers. And we need to believe that. And in order for us to believe it, it needs to align with our values. And I think it's very, very important to find the people who can help us develop that sense that we are doing something that matters and that's aligned with who we want to become as human beings.
Great. Thank you, Tatyana. Do you have a final message to the audience in Japan?
Well, first of all, I love Japan. I think it's one of the places that has been, right, for so many decades, shaping the future of technology. It's one of my favorite places. I studied with a Zen Buddhist monk in college. So I've traveled to Japan and especially to the monasteries several times. And what I hope is that Japan, I think there's a ton of potential for Japanese product managers to innovate, not just for the Japanese market, but for the world in a deeper way. So I think I do hope that we can bring more empathy for the global market, right, to the Japanese product managers, so that there's so much incredible innovation happening in Japan. And I feel like too much of it is staying in Japan. I want more of it to get out into the world. And the question is, how do we bring more human-centered design, more global human sort of insights, right, to the product managers in Japan, so that so many of these incredible technologies, right, can also, take over the world, not just stay, right, on this incredible island nation.
Great. Thank you so much, Tatyana. That's very inspirational. And I actually hope that we'd be able to see you in Japan soon.
I would love that. I would love to come to Japan again. And I welcome the opportunity anytime.